Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has hidden unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure, or admire an old one. What will we find today? Let's dig in. Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
You've most likely read the story of Jonah, a prophet of God. He ran away when God told him to go to Nineveh to tell them to repent. He got swallowed by a big fish, then spit out, and finally he obeyed God, and Nineveh repented. Basic Bible story stuff, right? Well, let me ask you this. What was Jonah afraid of? In a cursory reading, one might think those Ninevites were really mean and scary, so Jonah was probably afraid of them. Nineveh was the capital city of the Assyrian Empire, the largest city in the world at the time. These Gentiles got God's attention because of their wickedness. Nahum 3:1-4 tells us how wicked they were. Nahum calls it the city of blood, full of lies and plunder, piles of dead bodies without number. He mentions enslaving people, prostitution, and witchcraft. Quite a variety of sins. Jonah had every reason to expect that if he obeyed God and traveled there to proclaim God's judgment and tell them to repent, he'd be mocked at best and tortured and killed at worst. But somehow I don't think Jonah feared this. In fact, he didn't seem to fear death necessarily. On board the ship during the storm, the other men cried out to their gods, but it never said Jonah cried out to his God. In fact, when he told the sailors he was running from the Lord and they should throw him overboard, they were terrified, but he wasn't. When they finally threw him overboard and the sea became calm, it says that the men greatly feared the Lord and offered a sacrifice to the Lord. The storm and the events associated with it made the pagan sailors fear God more than Jonah, the prophet of God, did. Maybe that was Jonah's biggest problem. He didn't fear the Lord. In fact, it seemed like his lack of fear of the Lord was what scared the sailors enough to throw him overboard. So what did Jonah fear? We find out in chapter 4. In chapter 3, he obeyed God by proclaiming judgment on Nineveh. The response didn't seem to surprise him in the least. The people of Nineveh, from the king to the lowest beggar, repented in sackcloth and ashes. They fasted and prayed because they truly believed Jonah's message. Now you'd think that that would be the ultimate objective of every prophet, for people to listen and act on what he said. Most prophets in the Old Testament never had a chance to feel that type of success. Jeremiah told of God's judgment for decades and almost quit because his prophecies were met with jeers and threats. Isaiah prophesied through 4 kings, and the response that he got was mostly rebellion. Hosea learned to sympathize with God as his wife sold herself to prostitution, and God's people sold themselves to idols. What some of the other prophets wouldn't give to preach for 3 days and get a response like the one Jonah got. The thing is, that's what Jonah was afraid of. And God knew it because Jonah had told him. In Jonah 4:2-3, Jonah told the Lord, "O Lord, is not this what I said when I was yet in my country? That is why I made haste to flee to Tarshish, for I knew that you are a gracious God and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and relenting from disaster. Therefore, O Lord, please take my life from me, for it's better for me to die than to live." Jonah had 2 major problems. He didn't fear God and therefore attempted to rebel against him, and he didn't love those who God loved. Jonah saw the Ninevites as enemies. God saw them as wayward children. In his anger, Jonah saw them as wicked and worthy only of judgment. In his mercy, God saw them as his creation in need of forgiveness. Jonah would rather die than see his enemies repent and receive God's mercy. He didn't love them at all. Our attitude toward people depends on our perspective. If we see our family members or neighbors or even random people we encounter, like a bank teller or grocery clerk, as God's special, precious creation that he sent his son to die for, then we tend to treat them with love and respect. But if we see them as enemies, unworthy, or beneath our notice, we miss God's mercy and love in our lives, flowing through us to them. May the Lord use you today to show His love and forgiveness to others.
As always, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to share a treasure, support this ministry, or get Carla to speak at an event, please contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you can find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.